All right, welcome everybody to week 1, day 2 of game development class. So hopefully all of you guys were able to play a game. If that was too hard for you guys, I don't know. It's gonna be a long semester. But the reason why I did it was, and the reason why I kind of briefly went over all those different elements of game design, which are not all of them, by the way. I just kind of picked some highlights, like player interaction, things like that, is because I want you guys to start thinking about those things when you play games. And like when I play a new board game, like I'm there's kind of like the back of my head's going like, all right, how much can I influence what other people are doing? You know, I was playing a game called King Dominio for the first time. Let's see if I can show you guys what King Dominio looks like. King Dominio. I picked it up just as it looked like a fun casual game that I could play with my family and maybe some friends and things like that. If I could spell it right, King Dominio. No, that's a roller coaster. Interesting. Board game. There we go. We'll be here listening to class. Can't participate. Driving from Fresno to San Diego. Cool. Yeah, San Diego's awesome. I was just down there a couple weeks ago. Cool. All right, so King Dominio. Like, it looked like, it's recommended for young kids, things like that. And typically, games that are for young kids are not very well designed. That's a custom set. That's cool. Here's what the game looks like. Okay, so the pieces are dominoes. That's why it's called King Dominio. You just have these little dominoes, and what there is there's a little pool of dominoes you can take, and there's an ordering for the dominoes. Like, better ones go at the bottom, worse ones go at the top. And if you when you choose a domino, you put your little king person on the domino and take it, and then you attach the domino to your kingdom, and the dominoes have to match. At least one of the tiles has to match an existing domino, and you have like a 5x5 space to work with to build your kingdom. And then after the kingdom fills in, it's only 12 dominoes. Like, you collect 12 dominoes. 12 times 2 is 24, plus you have a starting wild card here, 25 5x5 area. Once you fill it in, or just all 12 rounds are over, you score it. The scoring is very simple. It's the number of contiguous regions times the number of crowns, right? And so this would be 3 times 1, 2, 3, 4. This would be 12 points. Very easy. Now, I was playing it, and I was not expecting very much from it, right? It's a kid's game, and the player interaction is pretty minimal. Like, you can't directly attack other people's kingdoms. There's no, like at first it looked like there was not very much player interaction, but after I played it a few times, I'm like, oh, this game's actually a lot better than I thought it was. Because when you take the top domino, that means you get to go first the next turn. And so, yeah, sure, the best dominoes are at the bottom, but that means you go last next time. And so I found myself sometimes taking dominoes that, might cost me a point or two, but were the first one, so that I'd have my pick of all of them the next time. And sometimes you pick the last domino, and then everybody else picks, and you get stuck with the last domino again. And you get stuck with the last domino again. So you can actually get stuck in last place, and sure, you're getting the best tiles, but like, if that tile there doesn't match anything you have, it's a lost turn. And so the player interaction comes about through your ordering in terms of going first and going last and things like that. And so, like, I liked going first because then I could go first again the next turn if I liked, and I could be waiting for that one tile that I needed, and then I would jump into the line, and then somebody else would have a chance to go first. And so it was actually fairly interesting game. It's a very lightweight game. You can play it in half an hour. But it surprised me with the player interaction being a little bit more meaningful than I thought it would be. And then there's an expansion for it that adds giants, which I don't know if they have any pictures of them in here. but the giants delete a crown on another player. And so the very, very, very top tiles are giant tiles. And so if you take them, you get a giant, which sucks. In an ideal world, it only costs you 1 point. If you have a single crown on a single tile, it's only 1 point. It's not a big deal. But if you then take a last place tile called a footstep, you can actually put a giant on somebody else. And so it's a mechanic that allows you to kind of punish somebody who's going to win, right? So like if somebody's in first place, you can take a giant yourself, and then on a later turn, take a footstep, and then push the giant onto another person. Do they have the expansion on here? There you go, Age of Giants. And so you can see they have these little giant meeples and things like that. And so, there's, if you're losing, then you can actually hurt yourself by taking a giant, and then later on taking a footstep. Like, I don't know if you can see that in the middle there. There's like these little footstep icons. And so you take that, and then you push the giant on the person who's winning. And it comes with a cool little tower like this, and you can actually slide the dominoes out at the bottom. It's kind of a cool feeding mechanism. It's like an ammo feeder. Like you pull 5 tiles out, set them down, people pick, and then that changes the order that people go in. Then you pick again. Do that 12 times, that's the game. And so it turned out to actually be not a bad game, and I was pleasantly surprised by it. It did win the Spiel des Jahres, which is the best game of the year award, for the world, basically. Probably in the Kinder. Here you go. 2017 Spiel des Jahres winner. Game of the year. So, it's probably going to be good. If it was... Spiel des Jahres is German. There is a German board game convention every year, and they vote on the best board games of the year and stuff like that. So let's talk. So let's go through these elements of Halo PvP board game. Oh, interesting, yeah. Let's go through the elements of game design, and hopefully those of you that are still getting Unreal Engine set up can have it done by the time I am done boring you guys with all this fancy academic talk of games. So, what's really fun is that it is actually academic, right? Like, there's let's make this a little smaller. Shrink my face. Okay. So, it's actually an academic field called ludology, which some people giggle at because they think it's L-E-W-D. It's L-U-D-O. Ludos is Latin for game. And so ludology is the academic study of games. And it's a real thing. You can become a ludologist if you want. I don't know who's hiring ludologists, what universities hire ludologists, but it's a thing. And I've got some books on ludology in my bookshelf back there. This guy by the name of Ralph Koster that wrote a book called Theory of Fun that really talks about why are certain things fun. It's a good book. It's like a comic book too. It's very easy to understand. Okay, so principles of game design. Okay. So when you make a game, and you guys are going to be making a game this semester, this month, you need to think about it. You need to think about these things deliberately. Like you don't want to do things by accident, right? Like sometimes you write a bug and it actually works out to be kind of funny, and like Bethesda software calls it it's not a bug, it's a feature, right? But in general, you want to have this sort of deliberate way of thinking about games when you're playing games, when you're making games, and when you do that, you'll sort of develop your game design brain. Your game design brain will level up, and be able to make better games and be able to look at problems in games. And when you're playing games, like you'd be like, oh wait, there's a really broken exploit here, and I can just win the game if I just do this one action over and over again. You know, your friends will hate you, but you'll win, right? So a good first question that I'll throw out to you guys is, what does it mean to be a game? What is a game? How would you define a game? Don't look at the dictionary. Just how would you personally define it? Has an objective and goal. So like the military invading a country is a game. Then they have a goal. Something that entertains. So when I listen to Britney Spears singing "Hit Me Baby One More Time," is that a game? It's about combat, right? Yeah. Poor Britney, my goodness. Did you hear that she lost her court case challenging the conservatorship? That's rough. The form of entertainment that requires user interaction and thought. That's good. I like that. Competition built around having fun. Yeah, I like that too. But I mean, there are non-competitive games, right? Hanabi would be a board game. Has anyone here played some player interaction? Maybe, yeah. Have any of you guys played Hanabi? It's completely cooperative. It's a completely cooperative game. You've got the, what the heck is that? That's like a mod for it or something. I don't know what's going on here. Basically, it's a game that you play where you hold your cards backwards. Or I have the deluxe edition that has dominoes, little dominoes. But you cannot see your own cards. You can't see your own cards. Everybody else at the table can see your cards, but you can't. And so the goal is to play cards in a certain sequence. You have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but they all have to be in the same color. So if I were to play the 3 first and there was nothing on the table, it would be a fizzle, and you get a fizzle token. You get like 3 fizzle tokens, you lose the game. Everyone loses the game. So I'd want to play a 1 first, and so I'd play the blue 1. And then somebody else would need to play the blue 2. And you're like, how the hell do you know what card to play if you can't see your own cards? And there's also clue tokens. And so a clue token, basically you can spend 1 and tell somebody, these 2 cards in your hand are 1s. And or you can say, this card in your hand is a white. And so there's this resource management of how many clue tokens the table has. And you're trying to get all the colors of fireworks to go off from 1 to 5. And sometimes, and you almost never get a perfect game out of it. But ideally you don't fizzle, right? And so if you get to the end of the game, and you haven't gone up to 5 on all of them, it's fine. You just tally up how many points you had. Oh, we got 25 points. We did pretty well, or whatever, And so it's a completely cooperative game, and you can just play it over and over again, trying to do better every time. It's completely cooperative. It's a very interesting game mechanic too. Again, my game design brain's like, ooh, that's interesting. A card game where you can't see your own cards, but everyone else can. That's wild. That's neat. Betancourt says some player interaction. Yeah, I mean, some games have almost no player interaction. Like I played, like I said, Welcome to, which is a suburb building game, and there's like almost, like you're basically just playing your own game. There's a very small amount of player interaction in that game. Game can be strategic, but also have a common task and team based. Yeah, but like, what is a game, right? When you play a slot machine, like you go to Table Mountain or Chuck Chansey if you dare. I don't know if you guys are 18 or not, but you can go to a casino and you can play slot machines or video poker. Like, is a slot machine a game? They call it like gaming, like casino gaming, right? So it must be a game, right? Risk and reward, yeah. You risk $1 and you lose it. Yeah. it's not a very interesting game. Like, one of the reasons why I can't really gamble is, well, there's two reasons. First of all, I think about these games like critically, and I'm like, this is very boring, right? The only interaction you have with it is you stick your money in and hit a button to spin the slot machine. I'm like, that's a boring game, man. And worst of all, you're feeding it $1 every time, or what, a quarter or a nickel or whatever. So you're like feeding it money, and then every so often it gives you a little bit of money back. I'm like, that just does not appeal to me. And second, because I teach discrete math and probability, like, at a very high level, abstract level, a slot machine is a game in which you hand it $1 and it hands you back 98 cents. And you can play that game as many times as you want. And I'm just like, no. Yeah. Gambling, after you study probability especially, it's just like, yeah, no, that's just a bad bet. Like, I just wouldn't take that bet. I'm not going to play a game where I hand you $1 and you hand me 98 cents. Like, that just doesn't appeal to me, The hitting the button gives me dopamine. Yeah. For me, it bores me. It bores me incredibly. And, like, when I was young, in Vegas, I don't know if they still do it, but what they used to do was, if you're gambling, they will bring you free drinks, right? And so, like, I experimented. I was like, all right, what's the minimum I could pay, and then, maybe break even on the free alcohol side of things, and it just bored me to tears. Like, I couldn't do it. I'm like, I'm just gonna buy a drink. Like, sitting there playing penny slot machines, waiting for the waitress to come back, like, spinning it once every 30 seconds, doing the math in my head of like, all right, this is how fast I'm losing money. This is how much I'm making on the free drinks. Am I gonna break even? No, it was just so tedious. It was horrible. What about track and field? Hurdles? Somebody does a hurdle event. Is that a game? Is it fun? Is a marathon fun? For me, a marathon would be utter torture. For me, a marathon would not be very fun at all, let alone like the ultra marathoners and stuff like that. I don't know. What do you guys think? Just feed in, type something in the IS50 chat channel. It's competitive. You're trying to be better than others. Okay. Is it fun though? Like, I don't know. Maybe like throwing a javelin's fun. I don't know. That seems kind of fun to me. I've thrown javelins before, and I don't know how I did it, but I hit the target sideways. Like, how do you throw a javelin and then it hits flat side? Like, I don't know. I'm garbage at throwing javelins. Maybe not to you, probably for others. Okay, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. What about a game in which all you have to do is click a mouse as fast as you can? There was an old Nintendo game called Track and Field, and to race in Track and Field, you just have to hit the buttons faster than other people. You do a sport called HEMA. Yeah, HEMA's historical European martial arts. Yeah, it's awesome. It's cool. Where do you do it, Davina? Out of curiosity. Fresno? Is it Iron Gate or something like that? Yeah, that's cool. Nice. Yeah, maybe I'll show you my my armor sometime. I've got actually, just hang on for a second. What's up, bro? Just watch it in, girl. That's an actual metal helm. It's got a duck on it, of course. Duck on the back too. This is about, I don't know. It's pretty solid. It's a little rusty right now. I need to. Yeah, so is that a game? Putting on armor, beating each other up. that a game? Okay. Yeah. It's unless you had a controller with turbo buttons, yeah. That was around the time they invented the turbo button, and you just automatically won. You just hold the button down. Wide Putin is a game. Yeah. Yeah. I do SCA fighting, which is sort of tangentially related to HEMA. And we get out wooden sticks and we hit each other with wooden sticks, and it hurts to get hit with a wooden stick. Somebody swinging at full force hurts when you get hit with it. So we wear armor so it doesn't hurt. So it's like it's kind of an interesting thing to think about. Like, is something a game? Like, is the gamification that I was telling you about? When my cousin goes to the gym, she has to sign in on her life insurance policies app. I'm at the gym now, and then they give her credit on her life insurance. Is that a game? I don't know. It's gamified. She like earn stars or coins or something like that. When you drive a certain kinds of cars in eco mode. Have you guys ever seen this? Eco mode. Have you ever seen this eco mode in a car? So there's some of the cars when they have eco mode on, it actually will grow a little tree or something. Because if you floor it and brake really hard, you're actually burning a lot more gas than if you drive gently, sort of. So if you drive gently and stuff like that, like this little tree grows on your dashboard. Yeah. So is that a game? I don't know. It's a real life game. Might anger people behind you on the road when you're accelerating, like. Is that a game? I don't know. If anyone is interested, the teacher in Fresno is an actual legend in the HEMA world. Helped make the whole thing real. Yeah, post a link on there, Davina. I might go to it. It'd be cool. My daughter loves sword fighting too. She goes to the fencing school. All right, so Sid Myers, who's the guy who did games like Civilization, Pirates, Sid Meier's Railroads, things like that. He says a game is a series of interesting choices, and that's the definition I sort of use for myself when I'm doing like video game development and things like that. Like, for me, what really sparks my interest in a game is when I have to sit there and have smoke coming out of my ears, and like I'm really thinking like, do I do this or do I do that? Do I invade this country? Do I invade that country? Do I go with a monarchy or do I go with a republic? And I'm like, that for me is what makes a game really interesting for me. And that applies even for first-person shooters and things like that. Like, do I go scout or soldier? Do I go heavy weapons guy or medic? Do I take this loadout? Do I take that loadout? That's kind of my personal philosophy here. Okay, and you guys are free to disagree with me. By the way, you guys are free to disagree with me. But under my definition, a casino slot machine is not really a game because there's no decision. You just put in the money and hit a button. I guess there's a decision. You can bet 1, bet 2, bet 3. So you can spend 25 cents, 50 cents, or 75 cents. But that's not an interesting choice, at least to me. Okay. So, what's like last time I was talking about gamification and how 75% of companies are looking to gamify, and for those of you that aren't like gamers per se, like Shammy is not really a gamer. It's still good to know these principles because gamification is just going everywhere these days. And one of there's a TED Talk, I think this is, maybe it's YouTube, whatever. There's a TED Talk that I watched that talked about the fact that people kind of hate working, right? Like, so a lot of companies are using gamification to make working more interesting, more engaging, more tolerable, at least. And And we actually learn faster when we're playing than when we're being serious, you know. So like if you were to make up a Japanese language game, you know, where you know, you sort of learn as a side effect of playing the video game, then you might learn that faster than if you just sit there with flashcards over and over again, things like that. You know. So only 13% of people are engaged at work, which is really terrible. You know, if you think about it, that means, you know, 87% of people are either neutral or actively hate their job, right? Which is really, really depressing to think about. I personally feel very blessed to be a professor because I get to make games for a living and teach people to make games for a living, and also program computer science stuff as well. And I get to meet people and talk to you guys. Like it's really fun for me. But a lot of people hate their jobs, you know. Like when I worked at Dairy Queen, I did not like it very much. What's going on, girl?
I do not like it.
You don't like that video? Yeah. Okay, go do your homework then. It's playing her video on learning to play bass guitar. Okay. Yeah. And so there's a lot of e-learning systems these days, like if you do your HLCs or whatever, like your continuing education kinds of things, a lot of them use gamification to sort of drive your interest in it. For me, online digital learning systems are all miserable. The only good thing about it is that you can do other things when watching the videos you have to watch. Okay. You guys will learn about that when you go into the real world, maybe. I don't know. So, yeah, so this guy, Raph Koster, that I was telling you about, he wrote a book called The Theory of Fun. Football, baseball, are they work or game? I don't know. I mean, football, you know, there's a physical component of it, but, you know, there's physical components to lots of games. But think about the strategy. Think about what plays you run in football, right? Like football, like there's a lot to it, and you can't just like run a play. You have to know the capabilities of all of your players. You know, how good is your defensive line? You know, like, you know, how long can you expect your defensive line to hold off the offensive line? You know, or sorry, the other way around. You know what I mean? Like you can't just have a strategy that works because the other team will adapt to it. You know, and so there's a lot of like rock paper scissors mechanics in football. And it comes down to the skills of the individual players. There's a little bit of luck involved. Yeah, football. I would say is a fairly interesting game. Baseball, get a hit. I don't know. Like, yeah, like there is to be fair some strategy in baseball, but a lot less than football, in my opinion. You know, sometimes they'll call a sacrifice bunt or, you know, force walk, you know, intentionally walk somebody or something like that. But the number of decisions you make in baseball is, you know, basically it boils down to like try and get a hit. You know, if you get a hit every time, you're going to win baseball. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know, it's a pretty one-dimensional strategy most of the time. Soccer's got a lot of, like, I played 14 years of soccer, you know, and there's a lot of strategy and things like that go into soccer as well. It's a rough sport, man. And it's the thing that kills me about soccer is the flopping. Like you bump into somebody and they fall over and clutch their arm. Oh, you broke my arm! Psh, penalty, yellow card. The guy gets up, he's fine. Like, yeah. Because I was a big guy, people flopped on me all the time, and it drove me crazy. Okay, so, yeah. So Raph Koster, Theory of Fun. Okay, it's a cool book. It's like a giant comic book. Like it's not like it's ludology, but it's not like this dry academic paper. It's actually very nicely illustrated and things like that. And basically, his take on what makes something fun, and I don't necessarily agree with it, but his take on it is that which is fun is that which benefits us evolutionarily. So if you look, every mammal plays, by the way. Rats play, cats play, puppies play, and mama cats play with their kids, not just because it's fun and they bond and whatever, but it teaches them to hunt, right? And so Ralph Koster sort of generalized from kittens learning to hunt to the notion that humans like playing hide and seek because it teaches you, like if you're in the jungle and you gotta like hunt deers and stuff like that, being able to move quietly, hide in places where nobody can see you. And then on the other side, when you're the seeker in hide and seek, being able to pay attention and spot hidden prey and things like that. He says that's why we consider hide and seek fun. It's because it plays and it teaches us these skills that we need, back thousands of years ago before there was civilization. Chess and checkers teach strategy. A first-person shooter is essentially a hunting game, like I have a game called, I can't even remember the name of it. It's so garbage. Nice flopping GIF, by the way. That's incredible. There's a game that I have called it's one of the most stupidly long names ever. Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts 2. There you go. And it's essentially a hunting game, right? So let's see if I have any. Let's see if I can pull this up. Okay, so basically you're a sniper, hence the name Sniper Ghost Contract Warrior. Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts 2. So you're a sniper, and so there's a bunch of people over here. And you're far away. You're 1,300 meters away. Like, you're like a good chunk of a mile away on this shot, right? And there's wind blowing. The wind's blowing in this direction at 4 meters per second. There's bullet drop. So when you shoot, the bullet will actually move in a parabola. It doesn't move straight like in most first-person shooters. The bullets actually drop over time. And it's got a really terrible AI. The really terrible AI is this. If you hit somebody, it doesn't make any sound. If you miss, then it alerts everybody in the area, and you basically have to reload. Not necessarily. You can just kill people after they alert, but I often just reload at that point because, there's just people walking around down here, and as long as you can pick, like these two guys are looking at each other. So if you were, I don't know if you can even see that. It's really tiny right here. There's two people looking at each other. So if you kill one of them, the other guy will alert because he can see the guy getting shot. But if they were side by side, you could pick off one of the guys and the other guy will just stand there. If you hit. If you miss, then they're like, well, we're shot. And then they alert and the alarms go off and they start shooting artillery at you and stuff like that. But it's essentially a hunting game, right? And so you can do things like fire a luring bullet to make noise, to pull one of them sideways. You can shoot out a light to split people up. And it's essentially teaching you hunting. And you can see over here, this white line here is showing you the bullet drop. And how far it'll move in the wind over time and things like that. And and so Raph Koster would be like, yeah, that is teaching hunting. That's why it's fun. And to me, like it is fun. It's a fun game where you just very methodically work through the defenses on a level and things like that. It's like playing tag kind of with bullets. Deer Hunter, Deer Hunter is directly a hunting game, right? But his point is that it's not just like Deer Hunter, but like Sniper Ghost Contract Warrior 2, Warrior Ghost, whatever. That game is also a hunting game, right? And the reason why it's fun is because it's sort of activating those atavistic instincts from when humanity was all hunter gatherers and things like that. That's his thesis. Jacks, if you guys have played Jacks, you drop a ball, pick up some things, catch the ball. That teaches hand dexterity. Hand dexterity is very important for human survival in a lot of contexts. Things like HEMA, directly feeds into human survival, right? Like, every tribe needed to have warriors that would protect each other, and so learning to fight is fun for a lot of people, and I do martial arts because if I didn't, I'd be incredibly out of shape. More out of shape, I should say, because the pandemic's not been good for my martial arts habits. But it's fun. It keeps me in shape. I'm not particularly concerned about my own personal self-defense because I'm 6'6", but but it's mentally very engaging for me to like it's far more interesting for me to like roll with somebody in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu than it is to be on a treadmill at the gym. You know what I mean? Like I'm mentally it's Jiu-Jitsu is like physical chess, right? There's moves and counter moves, and there's counters to the counters, and you can bait people into making a move like, hey, I'm going to push on your chest. And most Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu people have been trained that when you get pushed on your chest, you armbar them. But see, I know that they know, I know that they are going to armbar me. And so what I do is with my other arm, I get ready to catch their leg when they throw it over. So I push on them, they armbar me, I grab their leg, put them in the ground, take their back, right? But if they know that they know what to do, then they will do a counter to their move to my move, right? Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu really is physical chess. And it's a very interesting thing. And it's far more interesting for me than being on a step machine and just doing this for half an hour, So, yeah, Valheim in your Steam list. Did you enjoy it? I don't know. Did I enjoy Valheim? Let's find out. Valheim, let's see, 260 hours. This is my current dumb project that I'm working on. It's a single pole that's holding up this giant castle that I'm building in the sky, and then I'm planning on taking out all the rocks around it and just having this thing floating in midair, kind of. And there's one pole here, right? So I put a hearth up here and some beds and building a castle in the sky, kind of thing. You can see it. So you can see my daughter built a vacation house down here. She wanted it to have a lot of windows so she could look out over the ocean, and then I built this kind of like castle in the sky thing above it. It'll be kind of floating in midair, basically, is the goal for it. Yeah, this is what it looks like from beneath. It's like architecturally, it's the most absurd thing ever, right? Like it's just a stick, and then this giant stone castle attached to this stick. And if I didn't have this other pole over here, it would actually be able to go out to right about here. And so I could actually have this giant circular castle that's about this big attached on a single pole if I wanted. And I'm doing it just, like I've long since beat the game, but it's fun. I don't know, building, Valheim does really tie into the, Rathcoster thesis, right? Because in Valheim, for those of you that don't know it, you're dumped into this world essentially wearing a loincloth, and you have to walk around picking up branches and rocks and make axes and hammers and build a little shelter for yourself and build a fire, and sort of you go from the Stone Age to the Bronze Age to the Iron Age to, I don't know, whatever's after the Iron Age, Green Metal Age, I guess, in the game. But there's like kind of 4 distinct tech levels you kind of go up through. You have to beat a boss to get to the next one, and it's literally like you're building a civilization in the game. And so yeah, Raph would be like, yeah, that's exactly right, This is my home base, and so this started off as just an empty green meadow, and my daughter built this whole longhouse here. There's a bar you can kind of see. We trapped a grayling in here. This is the bartender, and we have meals and drinks and room keys and things like that. I've got my windmills here to grind grain. I've got my house over there. This is my crafting station. Torches up everywhere to light it. Charcoal kiln, turnip field. Portals to teleport to different parts of the world. My longboat. Stuff like that. And so it really is like feeds right into that thesis. Now I disagree. I do think there's some games that are fun that don't exactly map very cleanly into his thing. But Kearney, look at Muck. Okay. Yeah, somebody played Muck yesterday. I've never heard of Muck before. Muck on Steam. It's a survival roguelike. Okay. Okay. Right. Yeah, so same kind of idea. That's cool. Oh, it's free. Okay. It's a meme game. Is it any good? It is. Kind of looks a little bit like Risk of Rain. A little bit like at least the art style a little bit. Play game. Sure. Okay. So the guy who made Minecraft Speedrunner did it. Oh, that's cool. All right. So do you guys understand what Raph Koster's thesis is? His ludology thesis. Is that? Do you guys kind of understand his take on it? Simmons, Trones, do you understand why things are fun? At least according to Raph Koster. So it's at least something to keep in the back of your head, right? And I sometimes do think about it like, cats like stalking each other and pouncing on each other and things like that. Actually, one game that I've always wanted to make that I've just never gotten around to making is the working title is Barnyard Wars, and like you play different animals basically in a barnyard. Like you have spiders making webs, catching insects, flies and things like that. But other people are playing as flies, and they have to dodge the webs. And there's people ants, and there's birds that eat the ants and the spiders, and then there's cats that hunt the birds. And like you can play as all these different kinds of animals, and they score points in different ways, and they all sort of counter each other. And it would be directly like his thing. IS50B project, yeah, maybe we can do that. All right, so let's go through the elements of game design. I kind of maybe want to look at some of your responses. I went through all of your game review responses last night and gave you all points on it. If you did it sometime between 3 o'clock in the morning and now, I haven't read it yet. Evolutionary games to teach things that humans no longer do. Yeah, and some people hunt. Some people do HEMA, things like that. So genre is like when you go into Steam, right? And you're like looking for new games, right? The genre is like that tab right there, right? So new and noteworthy. Let's see, this is different. Here we go. So genre: open world, anime, survival, adventure, simulation. They used to have there we go, categories. So you can think of these things as different genres, right? Like real-time strategy games would be like a StarCraft kind of game, tower defense, where you have to build towers to fight off hordes of monsters attacking you. Sandbox and physics are just really just simulating like the universe, like Universe Simulator is like the big one in there. Stellaris, yeah, is, Planet Zoo. You have a zoo. You run a zoo. Yeah. So, adventure games, that's a big genre. Tomb Raider would be the iconic adventure game. Why is the graphics not loading? It's strange. Broken links. Red Dead Redemption. Yeah, I've been playing that a little bit. It's a decent enough game. Yeah, Age of Empires is my boy. I played that back when I was in college, and they've actually re-released it several times, and they keep adding new stuff to it, so I'll keep playing it. Usually at the end of the year party, we play Age of Empires and things like that. It's a classic real-time strategy game. Let's see. So real-time strategy game, for those of you that don't know, you let's see. Nobody have any just screenshots of the game? Is it all memes? Okay, that'll work, I guess. So yeah, you build markets and towers and docks and things like that, and you build military units and you send your military units out at the other players to kill them. That's a real-time strategy. This looks really nice though. It's a nice little map they have there. So Microsoft Flight Simulator is obviously a simulator type game where it's pretty amazing actually. Like what they did with Microsoft Flight Simulator, they took satellite photography of the Earth and they basically allow you to fly around the Earth. And if it was just flat photos, like I did that myself. Like when I had to do a demo for the military, we had a flight simulator. I worked for a defense contractor, and we had a flight simulator. We made virtual reality headsets. I took satellite imagery of Kosovo and built a replica of the Kosovo in the Balkans. There was a conflict going on in the 90s. But they do better than that. So they can actually recognize where houses are, like a picture of a house that's normally flat. They actually turn it into a 3D bloop. So it's actually like a little cardboard house kind of thing. And they can recognize where there's areas where there's trees, and they make little puffball trees and things like that. So rather than just flying over like a flat image of the world, they actually have height data for the terrain, which looks really cool. They have real-time weather. They actually get the weather in the place at the time and simulate it like pretty well. Like I was like, oh, there's a hurricane hitting the Gulf Coast. I'm gonna go fly there in my Microsoft Flight Simulator, and there's stuff going on, and it's a really amazing achievement. Like this is all based on satellite photography. You can see rivers there and mountains and trees and all that kind of stuff. It's really one of the most monumental works I've ever seen in a video game. The trouble is the performance of it is terrible. It is one of the slowest games I've ever played in my life. Frame rate wise, loading time wise, it is not a very well optimized game at all. But I mean, look at it; it's pretty damn cool. CK2 and 3. Crusader Kings is a strategy genre. So you can see it's in the strategy tab here. And basically, like a lot of Paradox games, it's a map painting game. So like you've got your country and they've got their countries, and you're trying to color the map your color. So so pretty fantastic graphics, huh, guys? Yeah. Pretty fantastic graphics. But it's a simulation. It tries to simulate this chunk of the world from, 800 AD onwards to 1400 or so. And there's a lot of detail that goes into it. I've only played this game for 4 hours. I played more CK2. But these kinds of strategy games you can go really deep into them and things like that. Okay, so if you're making a game, the first question you have to ask yourself is, why would somebody play your game? There's a lot of games out there, right? There's like 100 games added to Steam a day, or something like that. I don't know, something like that. Okay, so what makes your game stand out? If you're just like, I'm going to do Call of Duty but worse, because they're bored, yeah. Good luck. Good luck. There needs to be something special about your game, right? There needs to be some hook, something that somebody can say that draws people in. Like for Valheim, it's Minecraft with Vikings. It's a Viking-themed Minecraft-style game. There you go. That's it. Yep. Related to a movie is an easy one. Yeah, like the Cars video game my friend made. All Yeah, if you have a games license that, like, if you have a license for like some movie, that, you're good. But like, if you're just like, yeah, we're gonna, you know, like, let's see, how many people here have heard of Overwatch? Maybe not even played it, just like heard of the game Overwatch. Just show me a picture of the game. I don't care about all these people posing artwork. Just show me a shot of the game. All of these are just stylized graphics. Just show me the game. I guess that'll work. So Overwatch. What are the copyrights for game building? Well, yeah, you can't copy people directly. Genre you can copy, right? Like Overwatch was very derivative, right? Which is actually kind of where I was going with this. So Simmons, Overwatch is made by a company called Blizzard, which is one of the biggest game development companies. And the notion is you have like, what is it, a 5v5 or a 6v6, something like that. It's a team battle. You have people on one team, you have people on another team, and just to make up something, let's say the people on this team are trying to get to this spot here, right? And so the defenders are trying to stop them, and the attackers are trying to get there. And so there's tactical objectives, and you work together as a team to meet those objectives. Yeah. So similar to Valorant. Yeah, it came out before Valorant, obviously. But speaking of copying genre, right? Valorant is a copy of Overwatch, right? Right, Dubs, talk about what separates Valorant from Overwatch. Right? So with setting out to build a tactical shooter, we wanted to address some of the common issues that plague the genre: poor hit registration, peaker's advantage, lack of updates and support. What sets us apart? Abilities increase variability in gameplay, new creative scenarios. Okay. They didn't say what sets it apart from Overwatch, which is kind of damning. So it's the same thing, right? Like it's Overwatch. Overwatch is like, there was an older game called Team Fortress 2. Team Fortress 2 was a team-based game where you try to accomplish objectives, and then Overwatch is like, we'll just steal their formula. And it's not illegal to, the genre is not copyrightable, right? Anybody can make a game in which you have a team of people fighting a team of people trying to, capture the White House or steal a bag of money or something, defending a car as it drives down the street, whatever. You can't copyright that. But if you were to copy like the individual characters, like that's Orisa there, then that would definitely be illegal. Okay, so it's Overwatch and CS:GO together. Yeah. So yeah, Valorant copied Overwatch but mixed it up, did a little different. And so the question is, like, why would you play Valorant over Overwatch? Why would you play Overwatch over Team Fortress 2? Why would you play Team Fortress 2 over Team Fortress Classic? Why would you play Team Fortress Classic over Team Fortress 1? Right? It goes back, over through the generations, over 20 years, people working on the genre and improving the formula, or hopefully improving the formula. And so if you want people to play your game, you need to have some reason for people to play your game. Now for Overwatch, their color direction, right? Like you can see, like Overwatch is a very cartoony game, right? Like, it's got these bright, vivid colors. It's literally cartoony in appearance. Like, it's not going for a realistic look. It's, like she's got literally comics on her arms. Ew. Sorry. There you go. And that's actually an illustration. And so, yeah, it's not super realistic looking, and that's part of the appeal of TF2 or sorry, TF3. Sorry, Overwatch. Is the color scheme. Like Team Fortress 2, which they copied, has a different look to it. It's also cartoony, right? But it's in a different way. It doesn't have those like bright primary colors and things like that in it. So and then if you go back to Team Fortress 1, that's what it looked like, which was even arguably more realistic looking, right? So as the generations have gone by, like it's gone, like this looks like, I don't know, I think that might actually be like like one of the original Counter-Strike maps. Like it's gone away from realism, right, and into these bright, cartoony, art direction things, right? Like this is far more realistic looking than the Counter-Strike stuff. So the question is, why would somebody play Valorant? Why would somebody play Overwatch? Why would somebody play Team Fortress 2 when there's an existing game out there? Okay. What percentage change you need to do to an existing game to claim it as a new game? Like I said, the genre can be copied entirely, right? Like what was the game? Paladins or whatever that was another team shooter or something. I've never played it. Is that literally a copy of Overwatch? Is that really? Did they really do that? That's amazing. Huh. So they have Sniper Girl, Anna. They have Siegfried. Wait, no. Torbjorn. Wait, no. Tracer. Wait, no. Really? Alright, yeah, that's a pretty... So to answer your question, Buzikian, as long as they're not the copyrighted... Really? They copy Genji too? Man, that is super derivative. It's not Diva, of course. It's some other character. Yeah, you can, as long as you don't use the copyrighted characters or any of the art or any of the music or any of the 3D models, genre is not copyrightable. Game mechanics are not copyrightable. Although I should put an asterisk on that. Like I've seen people license game mechanics from people before. Though to what extent, they needed to do that, I don't know. Might be more of a courtesy thing. They made different character models with the same abilities. Like that's okay too, really. As long as the abilities and design is different, your game mechanics can be very similar too. Yeah. Paladins came before Overwatch. Is that what you're saying, Shammy? Came out in 2018. Overwatch came out in 2016. Yeah, so Paladins, I guess, was it in beta? Yeah. I don't know. That looks pretty damn derivative to me. Like, obnoxiously derivative, And to be fair, Overwatch, like, legitimately just copied things from Team Fortress as well. Right? Like, the Scout, Tracer. The rocket person, Pharaoh. Torbjorn's the engineer, and it literally, you build a sentry gun, you upgrade the sentry gun. It's the engineer in Team Fortress, you build a sentry gun and upgrade a sentry gun and repair people's armor. Torbjorn repairs people's armor. Like, it's literally just a flat ripoff of Team Fortress 2 with changes, right? So what makes the game special, right? What makes Overwatch special? What makes your game special? It's something new and different. Yeah, it's true. Blizzard's main selling point was that they put the Blizzard polish on things, right? So Blizzard is a company that is famous for being very perfectionistic, I guess. Like, they don't release a game until it's done. They put a lot of playtesting on it, a lot of polish on it, so everything just works really well. Then they released Diablo 3 and shattered that whole image. Yeah, so their selling point of Overwatch is like, we're starting with Team Fortress 2. We're adding some ultimate abilities that we stole from MOBAs. Like, there's games called League of Legends and Dota and things like that have an ultimate ability. And so they're like, we're gonna take that from the MOBAs, and we're gonna take the Team Fortress 2 thing and add some new characters and make it bright and colorful, and then we're gonna polish it. We're gonna polish it till it's gleaming, and it's just gonna be a great, well-balanced game. World of Warcraft is the same thing. World of Warcraft was an incredibly derivative game. It did nothing new. It just had the Blizzard polish put on it. Like, just everything worked really well. It wasn't buggy. It was, I'm tempted to say well balanced, but it's not. It wasn't really well balanced, but balanced enough. And so people play the Blizzard games because they're given a certain quality of experience. And Overwatch had enough new stuff in it, like the MOBA stuff they stole with the 3 abilities and an ultimate ability. They added that to the team competition game and made something new. So Warcraft Reforged, yeah. Blizzard's reputation is not good right now. yeah. I used to be a person that would pre-order every Blizzard game, and now it's just like, no, wait for the reviews to come out on that. Okay, so Diablo Immortal, you all have cell phones, right? Okay, so the key thing when you're making a game is like, what makes my game special? What's the twist? For Overwatch, you're like, we're going to combine this game and make a new game using the best elements of both. We're going to take League of Legends and we're going to take Team Fortress and make something new. Okay. For my game, Custom Team Fortress, which was based on Team Fortress 1, I said I'm taking Team Fortress 1 and I'm adding the ability to customize your classes. So you can take a scout and switch out his weapon with a sniper rifle or something like that. Or you can be a spy who can build sentry guns, things like that. That, in one sentence, I can explain to you why people played my game, right? Because that opens up a whole lot of creativity, right? There's a budget system, so it's all balanced, right? So if you gain something, you have to lose something, right? So maybe you lose speed, you lose armor in order to gain, something. So I can explain in one sentence why people wanted to play my game, right? It's Team Fortress with the ability to make your own class. Done. One sentence. And that one sentence, people could explain it to their friends too, and like I said, 1 million people played my mod, Team Fortress. Or so, who knows. So, I feel like I've been talking about this for a while. Maybe we'll pick this back up tomorrow. I don't like lecturing too long. Do you guys have Unreal Engine installed? I kind of want to jump into that. Yeah, this guy announced the new Diablo game, and the guy's like, is this going to be coming out for PC? And he's like, no, it's only for phones, and everyone boos him. Then he says the classic line, don't you guys all have phones? Completely tone deaf to... He did not read the audience very well. And, Blizzard's reputation has gone down. It used to be sort of the sign of quality of a game, right? Because they would cancel projects like left and right. There are a lot of games they worked on they just never released because it didn't meet their high expectations. Nowadays, maybe it has something to do with them getting bought out. I don't know. Probably. So, Electronic Arts, same thing, same problem. Electronic Arts is a company, they hire a lot of game developers, by the way. And so I talked to their internship coordinator, last semester, last year maybe at this point. So after you guys have taken 50A and probably 50B, you could probably apply for EA, for an EA internship or co-op. And you get paid. Like, never do an unpaid internship, in my opinion. Unless you're like a trust fund baby or something, you just don't need the money. Like, unpaid internships are just straight up exploitation. Because you're getting paid nothing for it, right? You're working for them but not doing anything. But all these positions are paid. And by law, they all should be paid also. Like, unpaid internships are very probably illegal, in America at least. And so you can see there's a lot of positions available at EA. And the reason for that is because EA is kind of a crappy company, and I shouldn't say that. There's a high turnover at EA. And so people join and quit all the time. So they're always looking for new people. So after you've taken 50A, 50B, maybe you put together a little portfolio of projects you've worked on. I would apply for these things. Why not? Who cares? You know? What's it going to cost you? Nothing. Right? So you can work on a soccer game, baseball, NBA. I assume it's baseball, right? Do you guys know? Is NBA baseball? Or is it a Master of Business Administration? That would be a fun game. It's the Master of Business Administration game. You have to go to college and make a business plan, and or you can go indie. Yeah, but indies don't have as much money as EA, right? So, so this is a 8-month in Vancouver. You have to know C++, which I teach in the computer science program here. And it tells you which areas you're going to be working on, game mechanics, engine, tooling, qualifications. You need a bachelor's in computer science, working knowledge of C++. So this is a co-op, not an internship. Internships are for people in college. Co-ops are like junior positions, basically. And do they tell you how much they're going to pay? No. Why would they? So, in general, they're gonna pay you enough to survive. You know? And so, yeah. All right. And yeah, if you want to, even if you want to work for an indie, it is good to work for a AAA studio. And one of the things that a lot of people try to do is they're like, I'm just going to start my own indie studio to begin with. And it's like, do you have the skills for that? You know what I mean? Like, it's hard doing everything yourself. It's a lot easier to be at a big studio because the big studio has a sound guy and a music guy and an animation. You know, like they got people in all the different positions. When you do indie, and they got marketing and they got sales and they got accounting and they got, you know, people who do all the timeline stuff and contracts, and they got all those things handled for you. If you want to be an indie developer, there's 10 different hats you have to know, and if you screw up any of them, then your game fails. Like, if you do everything but you don't market it, your game's nobody's going to hear about your game. If you do everything right but you don't have a lawyer because you want to save money, you're going to get screwed on the contracts. And maybe your game sells 1 million copies and you make no money off it. Right? So, you know, if you are AAA level at music and art and sound and game programming and engine, by all means, start your own studio. In general, though, it's a lot better to work with somebody who knows what they're doing. Trust me. Like, that's what I did. Like, I learned so much. Like, I was, you know, a pretty good programmer, but I learned so much from just being around people that had been in the industry for a while, you know, and be like, oh, that's how you do it. Oh, that's interesting. Like, things that wouldn't even occur to me. Like, we were making arcade games, right? And so, arcade games, Obsidian, Obsidian is bought out by Microsoft now, I think. Like, all these indie studios are getting consumed. ZeniMax, EA, Activision. There's a massive amount of consolidation in the field. Yeah, so this is kind of like what a arcade stick looks like, right? You guys have all seen something like this, right? And so here's the thing: if you push the thing to the left, what number do you get? Right? If you push it to the right, what number do you get? If you push it up, what number do you get? Does anyone know? I was making arcade games. I had no idea how to act. Like, how do you read a number out of this, right? I'm making a video game that has to be controlled by, arcade controls. How do you actually get a number from that into your game? I didn't know. Binary? No. No, it's a float. It ranges from some number to some number. Or maybe it's an integer. I think it might have been a char, actually. So it ranged from like 0 to 255, or something like that. 0 is full left, 255 is full right. And then, but up and down was also encoded in it. So like the lower 8 bits were like the left and right axis, and the upper 8 bits were like the up and down axis. Something like that. And so I had to just kind of like figure that out. And then my boss was like, hey, by the way, these things don't always work right. So have you guys ever heard of this Nintendo Switch and the do you guys know where I'm going with this? The Switch. Have you guys heard of the problems with the Switch controller? You know what I'm talking about? Know where I'm going with this? So these are called Joy-Cons, right? And they have a problem. These things sell for like a lot of money too. Like these little dopey looking things. These things are expensive, and they don't work right. Yeah, they have a problem with them, and the problem is something called drift. Does anyone know what drift is? Like, not car drifting. Yeah, I used to live with a car drifter, by the way. What is drift? Does anyone know? Yeah, so you put your controller on the ground, and Mario runs to the left. Or to the right, or whatever. So even when you're not touching it, it's registering an input. And it's super annoying. Now, if you're pushing to the right, it'll register to the right. But if you just let it go, then, Mario yeets himself into the lava, right? My card in Mario Kart always stops mid-race with the drift. Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing. When I was working... in game development in the 90s, we had the same problem, and we dealt with it. That's the funny thing, is that like, my boss is like, hey, by the way, this thing called drift exists, and I will show you how to handle it, and how to calibrate joysticks, and how to have the joysticks be self-calibrating, so that, because when they age, they no longer register the same values as before, and center might not be center anymore, and left might not be. Like, maybe you press left and it only registers as 80% left. You know what I mean? Like, you slam it all the way over, and the controller only registers that as 80% left. And then your person runs slower to the left and faster to the right, which is also super annoying. And so, that's something that wouldn't even occur to me, or how to solve it. Wouldn't even occur to me that it was a problem. And that's why it's so funny seeing Nintendo, which is Nintendo, having the problem unresolved today. Like half my Joy-Cons have drift on them. It's super annoying, and especially since like I dealt with this back in the day and we solved it. Like it's not that big a deal. What you do is you pay attention to the values coming out of it, and as people play the game, they're pressing up and down and left and right. You assume that at some point they hit full left and they hit full right and they hit full up and full down, and you just remember what those values are, and that the max left, max right, max up, max down, that tells you the current range that is being read from it. And so you just dynamic recalibrate your joystick on the fly. You don't have to have the user go through a calibration process. You can actually just pay attention to the inputs, and then sort of, because these things don't like break immediately, right? It's kind of over time they get worse, and so you just sort of over time pay attention to the values coming out of the Joy-Con or the joystick, and then you just automatically recalibrate off of it. You can ask the player to calibrate once a week if you want. It's kind of annoying though, and like I said, these things don't change quickly. It's like a wear and tear thing, right? People are slamming the joystick left and right. They're playing Street Fighter, and they're slamming it around, and the metal contacts wear down, things like that. It's a gradual process, and so what you do is just log to disk the values that you're getting out of it, and you just kind of pay attention and sort of update it over time, and it works great. And I would not have known that if I had not been working for somebody that had been in the industry before and knew this kind of stuff. So I highly recommend, if you guys are interested in the field, to get a job. It doesn't have to be EA. I mean, EA it's kind of a garbage company. But I shouldn't say. They do have high turnover though. But to work at least with somebody who knows what they're doing. Nintendo made arcade games too, which is funny. Yeah, and like I don't remember this being a problem with their older stuff. You know what I mean? Like I don't remember Super Nintendo or whatever having drift problems. Yeah. Okay, let's get into this. So we're gonna do Unreal Engine. So everybody launch the Epic Games Launcher and click on the Unreal Engine tab and click on Library. So Epic Games Launcher, Unreal Engine Library, or you can just click on this giant yellow button up here. But you need to install the latest version of UE4, Unreal Engine 4, which is 4.26.2, I believe, unless there's no newer version. Sometimes they come out with beta versions and stuff. Yep. Anything in SD? San Diego? Yes. Yes. I think the Midway down there. Midway, San Diego. I think I might have closed. That's the aircraft carrier. Yeah, that's fair. I think they closed it down. There's game development in San Diego, for sure. And if you go to UC San Diego, is that where you're going, Bazookian? UCSD? Or are you just moving to San Diego? Yeah, UCSD. Yeah, UCSD has a junior level game development class. It used to be, I don't know if it still is, but it used to be taught by one of my favorite professors there, Jeff Volker. Really, really, really cool dude. Really cool dude. So, highly recommend taking the game development there. And Jeff Walker, maybe not then. I don't know. I'm just saying back in the day. UC Santa Cruz, yeah, Santa Cruz actually has a game development major. And one of my students took my classes here and then went to Santa Cruz and graduated in game development. And they have one of the professors there was the person who made the Rock Band. The video game. And so Santa Monica Studio and That Game Company, they're based in LA. That Game Company. Where are they based out of? Santa Monica. Yeah, the professor was one of the people who made Journey. Which I don't know if any of you guys played it. It was like one of the most iconic games for, I think, the PS3, something like that. And fantastic game, very different from a lot of other stuff. And so Santa Cruz actually has professors that have made these big titles, and he said their game development classes are a little different from mine. So, but he still learned a lot and did stuff. Okay, so let's go ahead and launch Unreal Engine. And then you should see something like this: select or create a new project. You guys all look at this. Give me a thumbs up if you're looking at you won't have the projects that I have. These are obviously fall 2020, spring, different demos and things like that. But you guys see something like this? I didn't hear the professor name, but I'll PM when the registration's open. Yeah, like I said, this is a while ago. It's probably somebody different, but his name was Volker, Jeff Volker. Yeah, he's still at UCSD. Cool. Actually, was it Volker that taught it, or Video Game Development Club. Yeah, you can join that. CC 125. Get put on a team. Okay, so it's not junior level, it's senior level. Let's see who's teaching that. The goal of CSE 125 is to make a giant project across 10 weeks. Yeah, Scott O'Neill, that's my buddy. So, yeah, my friend Scott made this game. Oh, that's like an Evangelion clone. That's funny. Yeah, so across 10 weeks, you work in a group of people and actually put together like a real game. It's a big projects class. It's like a capstone class for seniors. Who is the professor? Whatever. So, yeah, highly recommend it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to create a new game. All right? So everybody click on Games. We're going to make a game. We're not doing the other stuff. We're going to click on Games and click on Next. And we are going to start with the first-person template. So again, click on Games here. Click on Next. Click on First-person template here. You should see this. And then click on Next. And then give me a clap emoji when you've clicked on this green button here to create a first-person template. And if you need help, message me. You don't have to out yourself as not hearing something. Just you can send me a message on Discord and I'll answer your question. Okay. So I kind of want everybody to go along with me when we're doing this. Michael Yui with the Pepe. You're here. Okay. Does anyone see the extra settings underneath? Clap emoji. Thank you, Simmons. Very good, Leo. Memes are always welcome here. Got it. Okay. Corrente with yelling at the cat meme. Okay, you hit next, and then you should see this, right? So yeah, that's this. So it's going to be desktop console. Basically, all of the settings you should just leave as standard. Blueprint, yes. Desktop, yes. Starter content, yes. Maximum quality, yes. Ray tracing, off. Some of you might be tempted, if you have an RTX graphics card, to turn on ray tracing. Don't do it. It does arguably look better, but it's unstable. I've tried using it with ray tracing on, and it'll just randomly and crash. So just turn ray tracing off, even if you have an RTX card. Okay. And then down here where it says name, I'm just going to call this Summer 2021. So I make a new project for each semester, so I can always go back and look at my previous semester's stuff if I ever forget to do something. Very interested in that school stuff later on. If the teacher can talk about it again, I was AFK for a second. At UC San Diego, there's a really cool class where you work in a group of people. Senior, apparently. I thought it was junior, but maybe it was back then. You work in a big project to make a game. You have 10 weeks, and you work hard. You go hard on it. And you actually spit out like a working game by the end of the 10 weeks. It's a cool class. Everybody there is a computer science senior, I guess. So they're all like pretty solid on the technical side. Okay. So I'm calling my project Summer 2021. You can call it whatever you want. My super game, whatever. It's all good. And hit create project. Okay. And then you'll see a little dialog pop up. Mine's set, it's on the other screen, so you don't see it right now. But it says Summer 2021 Editor. And then you will get this. So new plugins are available. Oh, that's fantastic. Dismiss. Okay. And UCO is the only option for that. No, there's game development everywhere now. USC has a really famous game development program of I've worked with some of the people there. The guy who did America's Army is at USC. His name is Zenda Zaida maybe. Yeah, Zaida. Okay. He's the founding director of the computer science games program. Yeah. I think he worked on like America's Army, things like that. Yeah. So UC Santa Cruz has a pretty famous game development program. Like it's an actual major. Irvine has a game development major. San Diego only has the one class, but they've got the club, I guess. So there's a lot of options for like further education in academia for game development. Not all game design courses are created equal. Very true. It's very true. And a lot of them don't teach math, which is mind-boggling to me because in order to do what I'm doing right here, where I'm kind of flying around this world, and I'll show you how to do that in a second, this is all math, right? All this stuff that you're seeing here, it's all math. And if you don't know the math, I don't know how you can make a game. But, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to turn off my face for a second. And that will reveal the upper right corner. Okay. So you guys all looking at this screen here? You guys see what I'm seeing? Not anything. You might not have this, maybe. It's fine. You don't need the mega scans thing here. Okay. So this is Unreal Engine, okay? And Unreal Engine is a really nice product. It's free, and it's fairly easy to use. So first thing we're going to do is figure out how do you fly around in the world. And so I'm going to hold down the right mouse click button. And if you guys are on a laptop, it's going to be maybe a little harder for you guys to do this, but I'm going to hold down the right mouse click button, and I'm just going to move the mouse around. So I'm holding down right mouse click and moving the mouse around. Okay. And you can see that allows me to look around. If you have a laptop, I'd kind of recommend getting a mouse. Maybe it's a little easier to do, but you don't need one. Okay. Now, if you I can't have more than one USB with this laptop right now. That's rough. Okay, so if you're holding down right click, like I'm doing, and you press the W key, you move forward. If you press the S key, you move backwards. W key forward. S key backwards. A key slides you to the left. The D key slides you to the right. So the reason why it is this way is because in most first-person shooters, the WASD keys control your movement. And so Unreal Engine is basically copying the control scheme from first-person shooters. Okay. So again, I'm holding down right mouse click. I press the W key. I fly forward. S key flies backwards. A key flies left. D key flies right. And then there's also Q and E. Q is downwards. E is upwards. You notice I can go right through solid objects because I am in like editor mode. I'm not playing a game right now. I am editing the world. Okay. And so I can just fly right through all of these objects. If you want to change how fast you fly, there's right up here. There's something called camera speed, and you can up that if you want to go a little bit faster. Like I was doing that yesterday. The world was so big that I wanted to fly a little bit faster around in it. For now, 4 is a good value. Okay. You shot the gun. Oh, you hit play. Okay. Yeah, it is loud. Okay. So that is kind of how you navigate around in editor mode. Now, let's say you want to play the game. The template is, I like starting with templates because it gives you a working game to begin with, right? And so if you guys see the play button up here, you can just click that giant play button, and then that puts you into the world. And now, when I try walking around, boop, I can't walk through the wall. You see that? I can push this thing with my nose. It's got physics turned on. But I can't walk through it. I can't walk through the wall here. I can still strafe left, strafe right, walk forwards, walk backwards. But I am now in the world. And if you click, it makes a loud noise and fires a little rubber ball. And the ball has physics on it also, and so you can have a little bit of fun knocking these things around and playing with the physics a little bit. Yep. So that's that. How do you get out of play mode? Hit escape. Bloop. Hit escape, you are back in editor mode. Okay? So once again, if you want to go into play mode and launch your game, you click play. And then you have to click inside of the graphics window here to assume direct control. Mass Effect 2 reference. Space jumps also when you're in the thing here. And then to get back out, again, you hit escape. Okay. You guys all with me so far? Any questions? So far, so good. Maybe a long-term question? Yeah, go for it if you want. Okay. So this is actually what you look like in the game right here. You're the first person template doesn't actually have a full body for the person. You're sort of a disembodied arm with a camera attached to it. So when you hit play, you can see it jumps behind the thing here. Why are there two guns? I don't know. That's a good question. That is a good question. You can see right here they have a point defined on it. I don't know. Looks like it's just a duplicate of the gun, but you can't ever see it because it's beneath the camera. Once for VR, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, so for the game project for class, and from experience to talk Battle Royale is easy to make. Do you think you have time for something simple like that? I would avoid any networking or multiplayer for this class. Like we said yesterday with Walker here, I gave him an assignment to do multiplayer in just like a 2-player game, and it turns out it looks simple at first, and it's one of those things that looks simple, but then to actually get it working correctly is difficult. So I would avoid probably doing Battle Royale for this class. Maybe in 50B. Okay. All right. So everybody come back out into editor mode, and let's learn some more about the interface. So in the top right corner here, you have what's called the World Outliner. And it's an easy way of like kind of finding things in the world. These little folders you can sort of minimize or expand if you like. So for example, if I want to look at all the different cubes, the cubes in the world here, you can see I've got cube 8, and it's that guy there, and cube 12, I guess, is that one there. And if I want, I could double click on it, and it zooms in on it, and cube 8 zooms in on it, cube 12 zooms in on it. And so these names are not highly descriptive. I try to give things better names than that. So I could just be like, you can actually search for it, right? Like you could be like cube 8, and then jump over to it, right? So this is a very quick way, especially when your world is big, and you've got a lot of different things in your world, and you don't want to like sit there and like fly around like Superman, right? You know, it's just a lot faster. Just be like bloop, you know, and you can just hop to the different parts of your world. And then you can clear the search like that, and you can minimize or expand the different things. So the World Outliner, very useful stuff. Over here, this is probably the most important part of the screen. Every time you click on an object, all the details on the object will appear here. And so you can see things like its location, its rotation, and its scale, which are things I'll talk about in a little bit. And you can edit them directly. So like if I wanted to change its location to be like 500, you can see it moved. If I change its location to 600, 700, 800, 900, 1,000, 1,100, 1,200, or I can click and drag on this if I want. Red is the X direction. And if you look at the arrows here, see the arrows there? Red is that way. And the blue arrow, which is pointed upwards, that's the Z direction. And so if I were to edit this thing and increase its Z value, you see it flies up into the sky. And then the Y direction is that way. And you can rotate it and change its scale and things like that. We'll talk about in a second. So, Control Z undoes, by the way. Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. You can, work your way all the way backwards if you want. If you want to delete something in the world, like let's say I want to delete this first-person template thing here, I could just click on it and then hit the delete key. Boop, goes away. Easy peasy. Control Z, bring it back. So if I want to delete that box here, just click on it, left click on it to select something, left click on it, select something. So if I want to delete that box, I click on it, hit the delete key. There you go. Z value is up and down, not Y. Yeah, the choice of axes varies between different 3D modelers and engines and things like that. In Unreal Engine, X and Y are the horizontal plane, and Z is the vertical plane. So this does cause a problem when you do things like importing from Blender, which uses a different coordinate system, I believe. And so, yeah, I do wish there could be a standard to Biddinghoven. Okay. So the details panel shows you kind of everything important about the thing. Right now it's set to be movable. If I change it to static, then when I shoot it with a ball, you see how it doesn't move anymore? These boxes move, but if you set it to static, it can't move. Okay. So static objects, like that's a static object, they can't move. Movable objects have physics enabled. Okay. So this turns on physics, this turns off physics, and then this static allows things like the box can vanish. Like if you destroy it, it can vanish. A static object, which is this one here, can't change at all. So static can't change at all. A stationary object can be destroyed, but otherwise can't move. And a movable object has the ability to move. Hence the name movable. Okay. So I guess I turn my face back on now. You. Okay. You. Okay. All right. So yeah, we don't need to see the world editor right now. It's fine. Okay. So let's go over the basics of moving things around in the world. So everybody click on one of these cubes, and you can either edit the things directly from the detail panel, or what most people do is they use these arrows here. So you see how there's a blue arrow. If you click and drag on that blue arrow, it pulls the box up and down. You can't slide it sideways when you're clicking on the blue arrow. The blue arrow only controls the vertical dimension. Okay. And if you get it kind of close to the ground, but it's still kind of like hovering a little bit off the ground like that, which happens if you hit the end key, snaps it to the ground. So that's a cool little shortcut that I use all the time. I get something roughly in the place where I want it to go, but it's usually like hovering off the ground a little bit. Snap. And then you don't have to sit there and try and get it to the atom on the ground. Just hit the end key, and then it snaps down to the ground. Likewise, if you click and drag on the green arrow, it'll slide only in the Y-axis, left and right. And if you click on the red arrow, click and hold, drag on the red arrow, it'll slide forward and backwards in the X direction. Okay. So this is very useful stuff, because a lot of the times you don't want it kind of freely moving in 3 axes. Usually when I move things, like let's say I wanted to stack this on top of this. Why don't you guys all try and do that now, actually? Why don't you guys try to put this box here on top of this box here? Okay. So I would do it by clicking and dragging on the arrow, pulling it up here, then hitting end. But you guys go ahead and do that. And let me know if that works for you. Like, see if you can stack up and maybe get another one as well. Maybe get a third box. I'll give you guys a minute to do that. And once you do it, just let me know on Discord. I'll go ahead and pause the recording right now. Let's resume again. And again, all these directions are going to be up on YouTube. I record all my lectures and put them on YouTube. So if you ever, space out or have to reboot your computer or something, then you won't miss anything, technically. All right, so that is movement. There's another thing I should mention with this, which is you see how there's these little right angle kind of thingies that are kind of in between the 2 axes. If you mouse over that, then you can actually move it in 2 axes at the same time. So with this one, I can move it in the X direction and the Z direction at the same time, but it won't slide towards me. It still will not move in the Y direction. And the most useful part of that is the XY plane, and that allows you to slide things around. Like let's say I wanted to move this box around, I could slide it around on the ground without it coming up off the ground. So that is actually pretty useful. And so to do that, you click here on the intersection between the X and the Y and drag. And then you can slide things around horizontally on the ground. I don't use this one very often. It's kind of weird to slide it left and right and up and down at the same time. I typically do the vertical and the horizontal separately. So I might, if I had to stack this guy up here, because it needs to move in both the X and the Y direction, I would click on that, I would slide it in place, and then I would control the vertical. And then hit end and snap it down. So that's typically my preference. You do you. It's all good. But yeah, I'll typically slide things around horizontally, then control the vertically independently of it. Okay. So that was location. So undo this, put that guy back in place there. The next thing you need to learn how to do is how to rotate things. So right here, you can see there's 3 buttons. This one is for translation, which is moving things around. This is rotation, which is rotating things. And this is scaling objects, which is making them bigger and smaller. So let's do rotation next. So click on this little tab here, and you'll see the arrows have changed into these quarter circle looking things. And if you just click and drag on the quarter circle, you can rotate it. Okay. And if I do that, so you can see they rotate around the X, the Y, and the Z axes. Okay. So blue is the Z axis, right? And so you can see it's spinning around. The Z axis is pointing straight up. So you can see it's spinning around the Z axis here. That's the X axis is this way. So it spins around the X axis, and this spins, the Y axis goes this way. So you can see it's spinning around that axis as well. Here. So go ahead and play with that a little bit. Again, I'll pause the recording. I want you guys to just go ahead and move things around, rotate them. Let's do scaling too. Why not? So scaling gives you these 3 little boxes here, and again, they scale them in whatever direction you're dragging, right? So I can make it wildly distorted one way, the other way, the other way. Okay. So just go ahead and play with that. Go ahead and we don't use scaling also, by the way. I should mention that. Scaling is very... it causes problems with textures. So I'll talk about that later. But just be aware that scaling isn't... It's often not done. Or if you do it, then you have to correct for the fact your textures will stretch out and look really garbage. So go ahead and rotate and scale. I'll give you guys a minute or two to do that. And then we'll come back, okay? Okay, so yeah, so to summarize, when I translate, I typically, when translating is moving, I typically slide things in the horizontal plane first, like if I wanted to stack it up over that thing, kind of get it over, and then I control the vertical dimension, and then snap it down. When I rotate, typically, when I rotate it, usually I just spin it about the z-axis is the most common thing. I mean, if you want to make something look cool, like if you got a boat and you want the boat like up against a ramp or something, like you might do it that way. But usually when I rotate things, it's just going to be, you know, positioning the direction it's looking. I don't often like, you know, like if there's a mannequin, I'm not usually going to have them at a 45-degree angle or something. And then with scaling, I almost never do an uneven scale. In other words, I maybe with a box, like if I'm trying to make a wall or something, I might do something like that. But in general, if you've got a like a if you've got like a chair or something like that, like it just looks really bad if you scale it in one direction. You know what I mean? Like look, I'm making a bench. Did you? I guess. Kind of looks bad though. You know what I mean? So usually when you scale things like this, like it just doesn't look good. You know, maybe that's like a Chase Lounge or something for a pool. I don't know. Like whenever you do a one-axis scale like that, it just usually is garbage looking. You know? So usually if I'm going to scale something, I click on the little white box in the middle there, and you can see it highlights all three, and then you can do a proportional scale. And then the thing is, oh, that was a 2D one, sorry. And then you can see it scales up in all three dimensions at the same time. And that's fairly common because, like, you know, if you have a rock or something, you're like, oh wow, that's a really big rock. You know, you can find that dot in the center and then just kind of pull it down a little bit. You know, that's normal. So, yeah, translation, rotation, and scaling are the three things you're going to be doing all the time in this class. So make sure you guys are cool with that. Can you change the color? Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. In fact, let's get to that right now. Why not? So down here, we're just kind of going clockwise around the editor. Down here is something called the content browser. And the way that yours should look right now should look something like this, right? So the first thing I always do with the content browser is I click on this little outliner tool thing here, where if you click on that, it gives you the directory structure of your project. The first thing I do in Unreal Engine is I always show this because if all you have is like this to look at, it's like, all right, where's my stuff, you know? And so instead I do this, and then you can search it. Like if I was looking for like a chair or something, search for chair or something, then you can, you know, identify, you know, where stuff is. And so you can kind of see your directory structure here. And there's different things in the different folders and things like that. I usually create a new folder for myself. So after you guys click here, click here and show the directory structure. Right click. Let's see. Right click on the content folder here, and choose new folder. Alternatively, you can right click here and choose new folder as well. Either way works. And I'm just going to call this Bill. And anything that I make, I typically put into a directory I create myself, just so that I can find it. You guys all understand? You don't have to do this. You don't have to make a folder like this, but it's just, I don't know. It's easier for me. So if you guys don't want to, you don't have to. But again, you can just kind of right click and make a folder. And some people will make a subfolder for different levels and different sounds and things like that. This will do for now. Okay. So, what can we do with the content browser? Well, the most important thing we can do with it is we can add things to the level, like I just did right there. So inside of the starter content folder, there is a folder called props. So let's see. Can I switch the... whatever. So go into the props directory here, and you'll see that the starter content comes with a very small handful of stuff you can add. So there's chairs and benches and tables and a couple other things in there, a lamp or two. So how do you add it to your level? Well, it's pretty simple. You click on the thing that you want to add to the world, and you drag it into the world. Okay. And you'll see that the thing automatically sort of snaps to the ground wherever you put it. Kind of. Usually. Okay. So you just click and drag and toss it out there. And then you can rotate it around if you like. You can scale it if you like, but yeah. That's how you add things to the world. Okay. Or you add complicated objects to the world. Simple objects, we'll get to this in a second. Okay. So you can add a wall lamp. Ceiling lamp. Couches. Oh, that does kind of look like the chair, doesn't it? I wonder if that is the same mesh. Kind of looks like it, huh? No, the back on this one's more square. This one's more triangular. Pretty close, though, huh? Nice spiral staircase. So, yeah, you can add bushes to it and make a little office space, door or something. So just click and drag things out, and you can place things in the world, and then you can scale them and translate them and rotate them to your heart's content. Let's move this guy back over here. Okay. So, yeah. You guys all with me on this? You just drag stuff out. And then if you don't like it, undo, or you can hit delete to delete it. Pretty straightforward, I think. It's not too bad, I don't think. You don't have the starter content. When you make the level, you have to choose to make it with starter content. So maybe at this point, Betancourt, just make a new template, and make sure you turn on starter content. That's easier than trying to import all this stuff into it. It's kind of a pain. All right, so. So over here on the left-hand side, you can see there's different folders with the different stuff. Here's architecture stuff. You want to make a little building or whatever. Audio has music. We'll do that later. Blueprints we'll worry about later. Maps we'll worry about later. Materials, yes, that's what I want to talk about. Okay, so materials are, they control the appearance of objects in the world. Okay, so let's say that I wanted to make this box on top here solid gold, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to come into the content folder here, click on materials, and then I'm going to scroll around in the materials. Again, this is all part of the starter content, so Ben Court, you're not going to have it right now, but just watch what I'm doing and you can do it on your own. So if you scroll down, you can see there is a gold material, or I could search here, clicking and typing gold. It's maybe a little faster to do that, I don't know. And then you drag the material onto the object. Bloop, and it's gold. Okay. Cool. Already made a new project. Excellent. So you can see it's actually fairly detailed. Like, look at that. It's not just like a flat gold color, you know, or something like that. That's actually metallic. You can see it's reflecting the light like a metal does. You can see there's pits and scars on it. It's kind of a rough thing. The pits and scars are reflecting the sunlight. You see that? Even though it's a flat object, it's simulating a 3D surface on it very nicely using something called bump mapping or displacement mapping. And you can see these, it's got these like green inclusions in here, these little discolorations and things like that. So it's actually a really nice material. And all you need to do to, you know, make something gold is you click on it and drag it up onto the thing and boom, it's gold. Are we going to use Blender as well? I don't know. I am not a modeler. I've brought in guest lecturers before who've taught Blender in this class. Like I said, you really don't want me making art. I'm not good at it. I know my limitations. Yeah, and so let's make the box below it a different material. So if I just kind of, again, I'm in the starter content materials folder here. Maybe I'll make it chrome. That sounds cool. So you can see it's chrome and it's a shiny metal color. It looks kind of cool. And one of the nice things about developing, you can actually see the reflection here. One of the nice things about developing in Unreal Engine is that you can actually see what you're doing in real time. When I was doing video game development, I was coding the engine myself. And so I was just staring at a text screen all day and like coding up something, compiling it, then I'd have to run it and the levels would have to load, and then I'd look at it and be like, that doesn't look quite right. Quit out, you know, edit the thing again. And in Unreal Engine, you can just be like, I don't know, that's, maybe I like copper better. I don't know, maybe I like steel better. I don't know, maybe I like nickel better. I don't know, maybe I like steel better. You know? You can just sit there and just kind of play with it and just like, no, you know, chrome looks nice. I like chrome. And so you can do that to pretty much all the boxes in the world here. If you go up to this thing here, which was in props, material preview mesh, there's actually two different places where you can apply materials to it. So I can put on a glass material here, and you can see the outer part turns to glass, but there's a second part here that's, you know, you can make concrete. So there's actually two different zones you can drag on this particular model. And it's, you know, done that way for intentional reasons. You can kind of look at the different materials and kind of see what you like. So this mesh here, which is the material preview mesh, it's designed deliberately for this so that you can kind of walk around a material and kind of see what it looks like from different angles and things like that. So kind of cool. Water. It's kind of cool. If you want, you can make the floor ocean. There you go. Floor is ocean now. Lake water. But if you look at it, you can see it's really stretched out. Let's do one of these, like cobblestones. Do you see how it's like super stretched out like that? It looks really bad. And this is why I was telling you that like we don't use scaling that often. Because when you scale something, the textures... you see how bad that looks? It just looks really, really garbage. So anytime you do scaling, the textures stretch with it. So let's go over to this guy here and put like a cobblestone texture on it. Now if I were to scale this guy, watch what happens. Like taffy. Like, no. Like, if you saw this in a AAA game, you'd be like, somebody should get fired for this. You know what I mean? Like, PS1, yeah, yeah. This is a sign that the game developer really doesn't know what they're doing, right? And that's why I was saying like we don't really scale things that often. There's ways of compensating for that. You can adjust the tiling frequency of the texture. It's just kind of a pain though. It's usually better to just not scale it and just import it at the right size, usually, most of the time. So if I scale it upwards, maybe a little bit of scaling looks okay. Like that doesn't look bad, you know what I mean? That's alright. That's cool. Snap it down, that's fine. You know, a little bit, you're not gonna, you know, you can sometimes get away with it. Let's stretch this guy out one tick. Like, yeah, it's fine, I guess. Yeah, one tick up, yeah, it's fine. But in general, yeah, scaling just causes the textures to just become horrible looking. And then the floor, because the floor is just a box, it's been scaled to a huge size. If you try and put grass on it, like this is what video games looked like in 1997. What's going on, girl?
Trying to measure your foot.
You're measuring my foot. Okay, have fun.
Because
Is this for a science project or something?
no.
This is like the texture quality of like video games in the 90s. You know, like look at those pixels.
There's something that says banana slugs are bigger than your foot, but it's 10 inches, but it's like it's only 1 inch bigger than my foot.
Gotcha. Yeah, so you know, if you're making a PlayStation 1 game, this might be acceptable. I don't know. If you zoom all the way out, you can see how bad it looks. Okay. So you guys with me on this? So you can put new objects in the world by dragging them up. You can put materials on objects by a transparent floor. That's cool. Solid colors work, I guess. So you can put colors and materials on things by just dragging the material onto the object. Yeah, you guys cool with that? Got 10 minutes left. There's one other thing I want to show you guys today. And you can spend some time on your own time looking at the different, you know, things that are in there. You know, there's pipes and walls and stuff like that. But you're not restricted just to the starter content. There's a lot of free stuff out there, and we'll get to that some other time. So you know, don't think that the only thing you have to make your game with are like these really limited options here, right? All right, I'm going to make a game where there's chairs that are jumping over other chairs, and there's plenty of options. This is a good place to start with it. Okay, so the final thing that I want to talk about today is the top left corner. So we started the outliner, which is, again, covered up by my face now. The outliner here, which allows you to jump to different things. There's the details panel, where you can directly edit the location, the rotation, and scaling of things. If you are so inclined, I typically just use the arrows, but you know, you can set it directly if you feel like it. Oh, you can also change the materials here too. So like if I've got my gold box here, I don't have to just drag it onto the box. There's actually a spot here on the details panel. Do you see where it says materials here? So I can actually drag onto that spot as well. You can see it changes over here as well. Or if you want to be fancy, there's a drop down option here, and you can be like, I'm going to make it a lamp. There you go. I'm going to make it steel. So, and there's a search option where you can find, it'll show you where the material is that you currently have selected. Also, if you have a material selected, you can click on the arrow and then it switches it to that. So there's like 4 or 5 different ways of doing everything in Unreal Engine. The easiest way is just to drag it on top, but you know, you can do it from over here as well. So if I want to make it gold, type gold, just like that. All different ways of just doing the same thing. Okay. Control Z is undo. Which sometimes doesn't work, by the way. Fair warning. Sometimes you undo like 3 or 4 times and then it just stops undoing. I don't know why. Okay. Details panel also controls things like, does it do physics? So if I turn off physics, then when I shoot the gold box, you notice how it doesn't fall. I can shoot this thing out from underneath it and it just floats in midair. If I turn physics back on, then you see it topples off. It's kind of cool. I can shoot it, stuff like that. You can control how much mass it has, and that affects how much when it impacts the ball and it impacts each other, how the physics engine handles it. It'll default to a decently good guess. This is 800 pounds or so by default. You can turn gravity on or off. There's a lot of options in here that we'll go through. Probably the most important one that we're not going to talk about now is collision. Like how does it handle things running into it? Can you walk through it? You know, like that kind of stuff. And we'll go over collision another day. So the final part is the top left. And so the top left up here, by default, is set to place actors. There's different things that can appear on here, but by default, place actors is the... collision is really hard to program. Yeah. Physics in collision is really, really hard to get correct. It's absurdly difficult. And so most video games take the advanced strategy of not worrying about it. Right? Right. Like trying to get that to work properly. Like when I was doing engine game development, I spent way too much time trying to make sure that things didn't accidentally interpenetrate things like that. And then I just realized that all these AAA studios don't care. Right? If some character in the game has like this long feather on their hat and they walk past the door and the feather appears through the door, they don't care. They literally just don't care. And I spent so much time trying to solve that problem. And it turns out it's really, really hard. And so they don't care. In most cases. One case where they did care was Counter-Strike. And so in Counter-Strike, there was this problem where your guns kind of like stick out from you for a while. And in Counter-Strike, you can shoot through doors. And so what would happen is that people would wait behind a door, and when they would see somebody's gun kind of like come through the door like that, they would shoot them and kill them. And so what the Counter-Strike guy, Gooseman, did to solve that was when you walked up to a door, it actually replaced your gun model with a short barrel gun model. So it actually would cut off the end of your gun as you walked towards the door so that it wouldn't come through the door. So rather than trying to figure out the problem of like the gun going through the door, he's like, I'm just gonna cut the end of the gun off. And it worked fine. It worked great. When hair goes through the clothes in a cutscene, yeah. Like, yeah, it's just a common problem, and they might do a little bit. Like, it's very common if you put a hat on, it just turns off your hair, which in some games causes bugs because you appear as bald, you know, and like, if you turn off your hat, then you're bald because they forget to put the hair back on and stuff like that. It's pretty common. Let's save that, yeah. So anyway, so the top left here is the these are the basic shapes. Okay, things down here are typically what are called meshes, like tables and chairs and things like that. Up here, you got your basic shapes. Like if you want to put a circle out there, sphere. There it is. I got a sphere. Boom. Okay. Cube. I got a cube. Okay. I got lots of cubes. Look at that. I'm duplicating the cubes. Control W is duplicate. So if you wanted to make a snowman, which is going to be your homework assignment, you're going to need to drag out a sphere. And then drag out another sphere, or you can duplicate it, up to you. And drag out another sphere. Like that. And then, you know, add some eyes and a nose and things like that. So here's a cone, and you can rotate the cone like that, and you can shrink it down like that. You guys understand? So this is going to be your homework assignment, is to build a snowman. And so, you know, just kind of one of these things. It should take you not very long, I think. And then the eyes, you know, are going to need to be smaller. And the eyes need to be a different color, right? Snowman eyes are black, so maybe I'll find some cool black thing and drag it over here. And there we go. That's your homework assignment. And then the nose maybe should be something different too. There we go. It's a very professional looking snowman. My finest work ever. See if I can line that up a little better. It's like when you get those googly eye stickers. So that's it. So how do you submit your homework? Well, go onto Canvas and attach a picture of it. So how do you screenshot something? In Windows, it is Windows key Shift S. Windows key Shift S is the screenshot tool. And I'm just going to select this. And it copies it to the clipboard. It's called Snip and Sketch. Save, and I'll put it up here, and then I'll attach it on Canvas. Okay? So your snowman has to have 3 balls for the body, 2 balls for the eyes, and a cone for the nose at a minimum. Okay? You can go crazy with it. And if you do a really fantastic job, I'm well known for awarding extra credit for, you know, really fantastic jobs. But that's your homework. So you got to make a snowman. You saw how long it took me to do it. Just make sure that the eyes are a different color and the nose is a different color. White is fine for the body of it. If you want to do, I don't know. Yeah, that doesn't look very good. If you want to play around with the materials, you can do that. But that's it. So today we went over the basics of Unreal Engine. We talked about game theory, game design stuff for about an hour. And then the second half, we did an intro to Unreal Engine. Create a level, learn how to fly around in it, learn how to move things around in it, place things in it, and change their colors. And so this is the basics of Unreal Engine. And it should, yeah, that's about all there is for the basics, honestly. That's the basics of making a thing. So make a little snowman and attach it on Canvas. And just do that before noon tomorrow, and you guys will get the points for it. Okay. It's cute. It's like those the googly eye stickers. Yeah. Yeah, like these things. Like people walk around putting like the googly eye stickers on like random objects and things like that. That's yes. All right, that's it for today, guys. Thank you for coming out. Hope you had a good time. Remember to save. Save all is your friend. So that's right there. File menu, save all. When you quit, if it asks you to save anything, you hit yes. Don't lose your stuff. Okay. And we will pick it back up tomorrow at noon. Okay? Okay. Thanks a lot. See you guys tomorrow.